Hey guys, it's Mike Monty, one half of Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. And we want to reach out to all the fans out there who have supported our show to say thank you. Thank you for making 2021 one of our best years. And one of our best years was because of Anchor. Anchor, the way that you can have your voice heard. You can be just like us. Record your own podcast. Use the Anchor tools to edit your podcast. Use it on a phone. Use it on your computer. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all with Anchor, they're totally free. So be just like Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. We're looking together for a great 2022. We've got huge guests coming on board. Oh, yeah. You probably wonder why Jimmy's not here right now. Well, he's prepping for one of the best interviews we're about to have, and we're going to surprise someone with. So hang aboard with us, and don't forget, be like us and use Anchor.
Jimmy, I got to take a dump. What? No, I mean I need a dumpster.
Well, for all those needs, you need to call Big V Dumpster Rental, Long Island, New York, 631-900-DUMP.
Do you treat your dog as part of the family? Well, so do we. So why not celebrate your pup's birthday with the ultimate party box? Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Party Pup Info, and let us make your pup's party or any celebration perfection.
The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. Yeah, it's that good.
I'm headed to the bottom of the bottle. I've been drowning, I've been floating away. Every other dollar that I got in bed, I probably went and said away. I ain't f***ing okay, I ain't liking it, babe. I don't even wanna talk, I'm just smoking my haze. I've been stuck in my ways, I've been stuck here for days. I've been staring at the clock as the radio plays. I'm enslaved. Yeah. Rolling another, I'm stuck in my seat for the whole control of my speech. Yeah, I've been trying to get off this couch for a minute and a whole week. No kidding, I'm skinny, I cannot eat. Got a million cause that depend on me. Yeah, every friend in my family. From a girl, every fan I meet myself. I'm too on till I'm too off. Come down to make new thoughts, like jumping off of that rooftop. Oh my devil, when I do nothing to make moves based on my mood drops. Like who's lost? Like who's lost? It's yo, steadily killing me, running my brain full of shame.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 1 of the original G-Man of hip-hop, Mr. George Price, a.k.a. the original G-Man of hip-hop, is known as one of the great pioneers of hip-hop. Having worked with the Sugar Hill family for years, he helped to bring the hip-hop genre of music into existence. Born and raised in New York City, he began his journey in the music industry as he entertained and excited the crowds, opening up for Rob Bass and the late DJ Easy Rock as their hype man. He collaborated with B-Funk of Mohouse Records using the alias MC Friction on their single Keep It Real. As the world and values of hip-hop morphed, the G-Man took a new role, working behind the scenes to promote and protect many of the same stars who he shared the stage with. Working for Slack Enterprises for more than 20 years, George Price, aka the original G-Man of hip-hop, provided personal security services for a variety of entertainers in the music industry, most notably Casey and JoJo, the legendary classic soul artist Daryl Payne, famous comedian DJ Leon Rogers, and Tito Jackson of the legendary Jackson 5. Being trained by military officials, G-Man served as a bodyguard, personal security, and driver for many others in the industry to encourage the message of reach, teach, and uplift communities through hip-hop music. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the one and only, the G-Man of hip-hop, Mr. George Price.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing, man? I'm blessed to be here, man.
Everything is everything, my man. Everything is good, brother. So for the fans that don't know about you, take us back to the original origin of the G-Man. Like, I know you're from New York, but what was your upbringing? What was your upbringing like as a kid? What was your upbringing like?
You know, I had a very exciting beginning, man. It was very spiritual around the house. I was raised by a single mom. There was 13 kids in my household with a single mom, and the values was put together from church, of course, and how to be a better young man in my home. Like I literally had to go out at a young age and bag groceries, push grocery carts, and help elder people home with their groceries. And I worked at a fish stand and a fruit market. So I had those days of struggle back in Brooklyn, New York, where most of my life, I was born in Queens, but I lived a lot of my life in Brooklyn, you know. And I started getting these little dreams and these visions of a man talking to me while I was sleeping, and was talking to me about rhyming and about dancing and doing all kinds of different things, which I didn't know who the man was, but it always had a great feeling. So I would talk to my mom about the man coming to visit me in my dreams, and she explained to me who Jesus was. You know, so as my spirituality started coming in tune with myself, I started learning that I had a gift, being born with a veil on my face, to be able to say rhymes out of the air, just say nursery rhymes. And the rhymes were so prolific that I would go to school and I'd learn my lessons and remember all my lessons by saying rhymes. So this gift, just flourished. And one day I was at the fruit stand, and I was putting up apples and oranges on the fruit stand, and a car pulled up because it was outside of the storefront where they sold fish and stuff like that, as well as vegetables and stuff like that. And a car pulled up, and at that time I was only 10 and a half, about to be 11. I knew nothing about cars, like luxury cars, but this beautiful car pulled up, nice chic long car pulled up, and a man got out with a hat on his head, and he opened the back door, and an African-American lady stepped out, which blew me away because I didn't know that we had cars like that, or we was able to ride in cars like that. So when I say we, that's the African-American community. I wasn't used to seeing that image of us. You know what I mean? So as a young kid, you don't understand certain things because adults keep things from you. And so the lady got out and she walked over to the fruit stand where I was at, and I was saying rhymes, and she was picking through the oranges and the plums and the fruits, and she asked me what was that I was doing, and I said I'm putting the fruits together. She said, no, what was that I was saying? So I said I was rhyming, and she said, can you do it again for me? And she said, if you do it again for me, I'll give you $20. Now I was only making a quarter to help people, 50 cents. And this is back then where a whole bag of chicken was less than $1. You know what I mean? So, so she said, I said, $20. I said, I'll sing the whole song for you. So she gave me the $20, and I started saying rhymes. So, and she was just intrigued. She called the driver over, and he listened, and he was like laughing, and he was like in a good mood. So she literally asked me would I come up to her studio and do it for her. And I said, studio? Like, what's a studio? What are you talking about? Because as a kid back then, this is 1973. You know what I mean? And actually, it was like around 73, 74. I didn't know what what a recording studio was. So I said I couldn't go up to New Jersey because she told me that's where it was, because I was actually, that was on a Saturday, and she wanted me to come the next weekend on a Friday, which means that how was I going to go? I got to go to school, and I'm a child. My mother wasn't going to let me go because my mother was very strict discipline. So so anyway, I cut school the following Friday, followed the instructions she gave me, to detail, because I was real detailist about instruction. You know what I mean? So I I ended up getting on the train and sneaking out, cutting school early, getting on the train, driving, taking that train all the way up to the last stop, past Harlem, up there, way up top, uptown, and to the last stop, got off and got on the bus that she told me to get on. And her people met me at the bus when I crossed the George Washington Bridge. They met me in a little town called Fort Lee, New Jersey. So I got out and they put me in a car and they took me. Well, they let me get in the car. They didn't just put me in the car. They let me get in the car and they took me to a place called up Palisades called Inglewood, New Jersey. And she took me up there and she took me in this building and she had me go into everything was exciting to me because I'm not used to this stuff. So I didn't know what a studio was, but I got in there and I remember her taking me into this room that had a window in it that you could see through. And on the other side of the window was this big board with a whole lot of buttons and knobs on it. And now I realized that was a mixing console, you know what I mean? And plus these reel-to-reel things, the tapes was reel-to-reel back then, you know what I mean? And so she said, go ahead and warm up. So I went in and I was warming up, but it was so bright in there with the light. She said, would you like me to dim the light? So I said, sure. She dimmed the light, blew me away. I didn't know dim lights, what that was, but the light just going lower, I was intrigued. So I was like, can you lift it up again? I wanted to see it again because we ain't used to dimming lights,
Mm-hmm.
So she said, go ahead, warm up. So I'm walking around the room and I'm warming up. I'm saying my rhymes. I'm saying my best rhymes, And so she comes in the room about 10 minutes later and said, we're going to scratch that. We're not going to do it. And she had promised to pay me some money. And she said, I'm not going to pay you the money. This was not the $20 because I had already got made the $20, which was already enticing to a kid my age. So she said, I'm not going to pay you the money that I told you I would pay you. And she said a certain number. And she said, I'm going to pay you double. And in my mind, I said, I knew this was some bull crap before she said that. She said, no, I'm going to pay you double. So as I looked through the window, I noticed there was a man. It was a man sitting at the board. I found out later on that his name was Billy Jones. And then it was another man standing over him where I found out later it was her husband. His name was Joseph Robinson Sr. And then it was a white guy with this black slick hair brushed all the way back, looked wet. And come to find out his name was Rocky. And he was part of the Italian family or whatever that was up there. And her name was Sylvia Robinson. You see what I mean? So she asked me, about doing some things, but I couldn't do it because I was a kid. I couldn't do it. I just knew there was no way. I was already gonna get my butt whooped for cutting class, and I was already late for getting home. So I knew I was already in it. But she took the cloth. It was a cloth that was covered with a bunch of money in small increments from 5, 10s, and 20s and some 50s, and it was a lot of money for a kid like me. So she gave me. She said that was all mine. I said that's all mine. She said yes. So she got one of them old school brown paper bags and put all the money in it. And then back then the paper bags was real heavy. They was real thick. So she folded down and she said, don't open this until you get home. Don't open it. Don't let nobody see it or nothing. So I said, okay. So I was getting ready to walk out the door to go back to the car. She said, wait, I need you to sign the receipt for the money because I have to show where the money was going and where it came from. So I went back to the table and back then they had receipt books, the thick books with carbon copies. You had to write and it'll go through from one sheet to the next sheet to the next sheet. So she had told me to bring my social security number. She told me to remember my birthday, and my full name and all of that. So I signed all the information that she had on that paper and for the receipt. And lo and behold, that's when history started, where the first person in rap, and before it was a culture, and hip hop before that was before rap was an aspect of the culture, and hip hop before hip hop was the culture, that somebody had stole a person's all their publishing, their names, their rights. And back then I was known as Little Master G in my neighborhood because I was so spiritual that I stood for the Master God, not for my name. And then I got affidavits from, hip hop historians that was in the park in 1975 when I actually named hip hop in Prospect Park in Brooklyn, New York on Ocean Avenue and Parkside Avenue. They're literally across from the McDonald's that was over there at the time. And the affidavit that I got through the lawyer's office that's notarized, and it comes from who is a hip hop historian now. His name is Mr. McPhee, and McPhee, yeah. And it's crazy because to be the man that find out that you are actually the guy that named hip hop and I was on stage and actually told him to put all the aspects of the culture under that name because the culture was the aspects of the culture was blowing up and it was getting real popular and we was popular everywhere we went, man. So all the overheads used to go like this to us. You young brothers is hip. So that's where I got the part from in hip hop, the term hip from. Hop, because just like when I had to go up to see her in New Jersey, I had to sneak on the train. So when the police wasn't looking, I had to hop over the turnstiles. So that's where the terminology hip hop came from. So that's it in a nutshell, man.
Right on. So from the time you went into the recording studio and laid down some tracks, how long was it before those tracks that you initially recorded was released?
I don't know how long the time frame, but I know between 1975 and then the first hip hop song ever came out in history, which was Rapper's Delight, that came out. It wasn't the first rap song. It was the first song that was promoted, manufactured, distributed, and marketed and played on the radio, you know, and so in its entirety and as just a rap song. That was in 1979 because I was doing this since 1973. I named it hip hop in 1975, and the Rapper's Delight came out in 1979.
So to be clear, for the fans to know, did you ever physically perform with the Sugar Hill Gang, or is that something that you just wrote those songs, you recorded those songs in studio, and they recorded those songs in place of you performing those songs?
They recorded those songs in the place of somebody giving them the concept and idea from what I did as a child. Not all of the idea, but partially of the idea and the concept. Because if you look at some of the histories of the stories of Sugar Hill, you see she alludes to it by saying she met somebody prior to meeting Big Bang Hank and all of them and asked them to be a part of this project that she was doing. She says she met them in a McDonald's. That's not true. She met me and had me come up to her studio, but she didn't want to say that because she knew that you had a child that you brought up there, and it would be illegal. It would have been something wrong to be looked at. And by me being a kid, I couldn't get in clubs and make it a business and make money for it. So they had to get older people that was able to do that. So that's where all the controversy come, and then they get another guy named Guy O'Brien, and who is actually the Master G on the songs that they actually took and did the recordings over with afterwards, and who is not even from New York. He's from Ohio. So the thing that gets me is everybody laying claims, but you're not even from our city. You know, not that makes a big difference, but it has to do with time frame. See, back then, and when I was doing this thing, and in the affidavits, you see it. You see some of the people that signed the affidavits and put on and give their testimonies, and then in the testimonies it says everybody in the neighborhood wanted to come around to the park and on the corners and see this little Master G guy doing his rhymes, who was me. And that was in Brooklyn. So everybody has the right to their own truth, and I'm not debunking nobody's truth. Now I don't get into controversy. I stay away from it. But time frames and the time periods and stuff falls in place. They try to say that Cowboy and and everybody else did it, and they got it from the military. But when me being trained by the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines to be a close quarters bodyguard, which we'll talk about later, the general, the people that train me tell you and have said when I called to verify what they were saying, because you got to verify things, because you got people want to put you in the hip hop museums and all these stuff, but they so scared because people that has made stuff popular seems to like they're the ones telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and that's their version of the truth, which they have their right in their opinion, their right to their opinion. But in facts, in military, they said that you look at it, they did that in 1978. I go back to 1975, bruh. So it trickled down from where? It had to come from somewhere. So they counted cadence, hip hop, all that, and cadence. But I did this in 1975, and if y'all did it in 78, so that means I'm before that. You know what I mean? So and I'm never gonna get that recognition from the people because they have been brainwashed to everybody else's versions of the truth. And because you've been in something so long, but I went and educated myself. You know, I got my bachelor's in psychology. I got my doctorate in theology of music, the theology of music, because I understood who the minister of music for God was. It was Satan. So I understand what the vibrations do to kids' minds, what words and cantations do while you're rhyming that can control your cipher. Cipher meaning in your mind, not passing a microphone around. So you know what I mean? And then I named the culture based on 3 principles, which is biblical perspectives, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because I was a young 5%er. And back then, being a 5%er meant something of consciousness where we can learn to be better men in our houses, like I said in the very beginning, and in our community without getting offended and want to fight like these kids now. If you tell them that sagging your pants and showing your underclothes and your drawers and your butt it comes from a perspective of being in prison and that you was gay and you was available, they don't want to hear that because that's not what it means to them today. But it doesn't mean that doesn't change the legacy of where it came from. So I keep things in perspective, bro. Back then when I was doing this, turntables didn't spin back, so there was no such thing as a hip hop DJ. Turntables didn't spin backwards. They was playing 78 records, which was very hard. So it was like the big 16 inches, but they was thick and very heavy. And the turntable didn't spin back, and they was playing 45 records with the disc in the middle. So if you turn them turntables back, the black and the red wire would break, or the black and the white wire would break. It would make no sound. So you couldn't scratch backwards and all that back in the time frame when I was doing it. So that goes back before there was anything of a such thing as a hip hop DJ. You see, so when I break things down and now the truth is coming out, it's gonna make a lot of people feel some kind of way, but I'm not here to piss on nobody's parade or to call y'all liars and all that, because you have the right to your truth. What I'm saying is, let's take it to the core. Before there was a you that has your version of truth, there was someone else's version of the truth as well.
Exactly, 1000%. So from an early age, you were a performer, you took to performing. Was anyone else in your family in music, or were you just the first person in your family or only person in your family actually part of music?
Well, my biological dad, he sang in church, and but far as really my mom sang, people sang, and because my mother was from the Virgin Islands, and that's another thing we're gonna touch on too. You got people trying to say it was African Bambaataa, but African Bambaataa, how could y'all was a funk band that came from the islands that was already in existence as a funk band that converted to hip hop. So if you convert to something, how could you create it? So, you know, so it's just a lot of things that just doesn't add up. And then coming back to signing to Joey Robinson Jr. from Sugar Hill Records to his subsidiary label under the umbrella of Sugar Hill Records, which was Bone and Me Records. I came back when I got grown, and Sylvia Robinson and Joseph Robinson Sr. never even knew that I was the kid that they had that in their studio back in the early 70s. The same kid who came back now was MC Friction, because they wouldn't let me use the name that I had already converted to from the childhood days, from using the Master G crap, and it was only Master with a G, not Master with a G and 2 E's, and it was stood for the Master God. I had to convert it back to G-Man, which stands for God's Man. The G stands for God, and the dash between the G and the M stands for the bridge between God and man. So your name has to make sense, or what are you using a name for? You know what I mean? So therefore, when I went back to using my name, G-Man, they had somebody else that Joseph Robinson Jr. was signing named Almighty G. You know, so he said you can't use another G, and then we got another G-Man that's on the label that goes with the Furious 5 and all of that. So let's use you an alternative name. So I had already did a project in the Midwest called the Midwest Monsters, and everybody had a monster character. So I loved Pinhead from Hellraiser. So because he said he loved pain. So, and I knew that when he walked in the room, there was gonna cause some friction right on gate. So I took the term MC Friction for just that, for signing to Joey Robinson. So, but in actuality, everybody's still calling me G and G-Man. And then when I was with Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock as Rob Bass's personal bodyguard, live-in bodyguard, personal chef, live-in chef, and part-time hype man, when people didn't show up to do their jobs, I'd do the hype man, open up for them and all that. And I had all these gifts by having, like I said, that bachelor's of psychology, that doctorate in theology, a culinary degree. You know, I'm a professionally trained bodyguard by the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines in an elite program that they had, you know, that I was happened to be blessed to be a part of. And to do all these things, to go on the front of the stage and perform and rock the crowds, then to turn around, put on a suit and go protect the people that in movies and on the radio and on stage, that says something about a man's character when he can put other people before him in most of his life.
Totally agree. Totally agree. That means you're a helper and you give back, and that's what it's all about, giving back. And so from an early age, who were some of your influences as far as your musical influences?
Music, I gotta say James Brown, the Jackson 5, Diana Ross. She was very prolific in what I was doing, because she had a song back in the day that was called Love Hangover. And that song, Love Hangover by Diana Ross, it was a break in that song that just literally had me jumping through the roof. It was like in the song, she was like, we got a sweetest love, a hangover, and I don't want to get over. And then it had this bridge breakdown that went, dun, 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 and that just made me go nuts. I mean, for some reason, because it was like that build up to a change in the music. Pardon me. So those was my influences, you know, and of course the Motown era.
So when you see people like for the first time back in the day, like Elvis Presley,
excuse me,
I want to know what your opinion on Elvis Presley is, because, you know, I'm getting ready to produce a movie on his life. What's your opinion on Elvis Presley, the performer?
You know, if I say that, I left him out because he was an influence too. I got to be honest, and I say that because when you put Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, and you put those three people together, you have a full-fledged entertainment system. Full-fledged entertainment. See, these artists today, they don't know about entertainment. They just know about rapping or rhyming or dancing, one little aspect of any culture. I am an MC and an entertainer, because when you become an entertainer, you open the door for a whole lot more than just rapping, singing, and dancing and all that, or acting, for instance. You open up the door for being a part of the entertainment collage, if you will. So I could act. I just started a movie, which we're gonna probably talk about later on in the next episode or something. I'm getting ready to start in a movie with my fabulous manager who is in charge of, called Prism, where I'll be playing alongside Jesse the Body Ventura in the El Chapo movie, and the star of that movie will be Joaquin Phoenix. So I'm excited. I got into the acting thing, and I'm excited. I also started a movie called Mad as Hell, which will be being released in the next few months, and so I'm transcending, and with a great management company. It's prolific, man. It's so important to have a great management team. And then I got a great road manager who also opened doors for things for me, and which we'll be meeting him, and we'll be talking to him on the fourth, I think it's the third or the fourth episode of the original G-Man of Hip Hop, the G Spot, which is the name of the show. And welcome to the G Spot, by the way.
So tell people what that means to you, the G Spot. What does that stand for? What's the acronym of the G Spot? Where does that come from?
It comes, so it's not, see, people, because my name is George and I call myself G-Man, they think that the G is always about me. No, that G represents God, because God is everywhere. When you see me take a picture and I'm standing there with my hands like this, that's because I know who have us in his hands. You know, that G stands for God. That's God's spot. And God is everywhere I am at. God can be all things at all times. Like Bruce Lee said, flow like water. God flows infinitely like water. Because you notice when they said, the first thing they said the spirit was over the water, and the water was everywhere. So it's kind of like a metamorphosize your mind to be everything that you can be. So the G stands for the place to be. And this, it even goes into our future cooking show that we're getting ready to do, you know, where I have all my celebrity friends sitting around this giant G and me in the middle, cooking as a chef with all my celebrity buddies sitting around tasting, eating my food and stuff. So it's that G is everywhere. G stands for God, and God is everywhere. So there's not a man, woman, or child that can deny the point that God is real. And if you do, then you lying to yourself.
Amen to that. And that's really important for everyone to be successful in life, man. You got to put God first, let go and let God, and give it up to him, because he's the one that makes it happen at the end of the day. So having said that, man, from where you left off at recording those songs in the studio, what was the next step for you as an artist? Where did you go from there?
You mean from not recording those songs, because obviously you can't prove nothing from back then because the time frames are different. So I'm not going to get caught up in controversy with people want, because some people are sue happy. Where did you go
as far as your career after that is what I meant to say.
Okay. So well, right now I got a new single that's out overseas on Phase 5 Records UK called "Who That Got Your Back." We got a song that we're working on releasing that actually features Michael Jackson, titled "Be Where You Are." And we shot a video and stuff for it, but I want to actually do another video. I'm gonna wait till we get a little further down with these movie things so that we can shoot another video on that and add all my celebrity friends around it and all my team on it. It's gonna be much better thing. And the music is right now that I do is all clean, up tempo, fun music. And I wrote an anthem song for the CBD oil and cannabis industry. It's called "A Friend with Weed is a Friend Indeed." And it's a funny, fun song, and it makes you want to get back in the club and dance again, because we miss those days where we used to be able to dance.
Right on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's actually the end of episode 1 with the original G-Man of hip hop. George Price presents the G-Spot. So we will be coming back to you with episode 2 very shortly. Stay tuned.
Deuces.